You know that feeling, right? Like you're scrolling through your phone, maybe watching TV, and suddenly you look down and your plate's just empty.
Yeah.
And you barely remember tasting the food.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you feel kind of stuffed, uncomfortably full, but you can't actually recall enjoying the meal itself.
Happens all the time.
Well, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely in the right place today. We're doing a deep dive into mindful eating.
Mm-hmm.
Think of this as, I guess, your shortcut to really getting a handle on a powerful way to shift your relationship with food.
It really is foundational. At its core, it's just about paying closer attention, real focused attention to your food, and maybe more importantly, how that food makes you feel.
Right.
It's a skill, really, one that can help you tell the difference between, actual physical hunger and that trickier emotional hunger. It can potentially dial back some unhelpful eating habits and, even support weight management, mostly by making you much more aware of your body's own signals.
So for today's deep dive, our mission is basically this. We want to unpack the idea of mindful eating and look at the benefits, and they go way beyond just weight, and then give you some practical, really usable ways to bring it into your own life, all based on the detailed stuff in our source material.
That sounds good.
Okay, let's dig in. So if it's about paying closer attention, this mindful eating, where does that idea even come from? I mean, the root is mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
But what is that exactly? Is it just meditation?
Well, yes and no. It definitely has roots in Buddhist tradition, but mindfulness isn't just about finding calm. It's more about cultivating this awareness of the present moment.
Awareness.
Yeah, like noticing what you're sensing, what you're thinking, feeling, but without judgment, without getting swept away by it all.
Okay.
And so when you apply that to eating, it means really paying full attention to the whole experience, your cravings, those physical cues your body sends, like hunger or fullness, every sensation while you eat. It's about being present with your food, not just, putting it away.
Right, okay. And this is where our source material gets super specific, which is great for you listening. It breaks down the key parts of mindful eating, like eating slowly, obviously, and without distractions. That's a big one. And really listening to your body's hunger signals, knowing when to stop because you're actually full.
Yeah, tuning in.
It also helps you figure out the difference between real hunger and all those other things that make you want to eat, like emotions, stress, or just seeing an ad for pizza.
Or smelling popcorn at the movies, even if you just ate.
Exactly. And it encourages engaging all your senses, noticing colors, smells, sounds, textures, the flavors, of course.
It's a whole sensory experience.
And it's also about learning how to handle maybe guilt or anxiety around food, eating for overall health, noticing how food affects your mood, your energy levels, and just, appreciating the food itself.
Fundamentally, what mindful eating does is it helps you swap out those automatic sort of knee-jerk reactions to food with more conscious choices that promote health. It's all about developing that deep awareness of your body, your feelings, your whole experience around food.
That does sound like a powerful shift. But why now? I mean, what is it about today's world that makes this mindful eating thing so, I guess, relevant?
Well, just look around, right? We live in this incredibly fast-paced society. We're constantly optimizing for speed, for efficiency.
Yeah, true.
And we have this, overwhelming abundance of food choices everywhere. Plus, we're surrounded by distractions like never before. TVs, computers, smartphones, they all pull our attention away from the simple act of eating.
Which means eating often becomes just mindless, rushed. I've definitely inhaled lunch at my desk while trying to answer emails. You don't even register it.
Exactly.
And there's a real physical reason that's a problem, isn't there? It takes time for your brain to get the message that you're full.
Precisely. About 20 minutes, typically. So if you eat really fast,
you can blow past that fullness point way before the signal even arrives.
Yeah.
Leading to overeating without even realizing it.
Right. And it's not just about quantity. When you rush, you miss the actual pleasure, the sensory part of eating, which, ironically, can make you feel less satisfied and maybe look for more food later.
Oh, it's interesting.
So mindful eating brings back that attention. It makes you slow down. Eating becomes something you do intentionally, not just something that happens automatically.
Okay.
And a huge benefit here is recognizing those physical hunger and fullness cues much more clearly. It lets you really tell the difference between I'm stressed, I need chocolate, and my body actually needs fuel.
That distinction feels key. And you mentioned recognizing triggers too. Things that make you want to eat even when you're not hungry.
Absolutely. That's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because once you know your triggers, maybe it's boredom, maybe it's seeing food commercials, maybe it's stress, you create this little space.
The space.
Yeah, like a pause between the trigger and your usual reaction. And in that space, you suddenly have a choice. You can decide how to respond instead of just automatically reaching for the snack.
That's actually a really powerful concept,
Yeah.
having that choice. So, okay, if mindful eating gives you this kind of control, what are the tangible benefits? Especially, around weight management, which so many people are interested in.
It's a big question because, let's face it, a lot of traditional weight loss approaches, well, they struggle long term.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
There was some research, I think, from 2019 showing people often regain about half the weight they lose within 2 years, and something like 80% after 5 years. It's tough.
Wow, 80%.
And this often links back to behaviors like binge eating or emotional eating or stress eating, things that diets don't always address directly.
Right.
Mindful eating tackles this differently. It works on changing those eating behaviors and also helps reduce stress. There was actually an older review, looked at 10 studies, and suggested mindful eating might be potentially as effective for weight loss as conventional diet programs.
That's effective, really.
Potentially, yeah. Though, it's important to say more research is always helpful in these areas.
Of course. And I saw a detail from one study that really stuck with me. It was smaller, 34 women. But after 12 weeks of mindful eating training, they lost an average of 4 pounds. Okay, maybe not dramatic, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
They also reported feeling better about themselves, like more self-aware, more self-accepting.
That's huge. It's not just about the number on the scale. It's about that internal shift. And beyond weight, mindful eating can really help with things like body image issues and just generally improving eating habits. It's shown real promise for binge eating disorder, BED, helping reduce how often and how severe the episodes are.
That's significant.
Yeah, a 2021 study found that using mindfulness-based cognitive therapy alongside standard treatment improved eating behaviors and helped people with BED and bulimia nervosa gain more control.
And it sounds like it helps with those other common issues too, like emotional eating. Eating because you're sad or bored, and external eating.
Eating because the food is just there.
Exactly, like seeing donuts in the break room.
Yeah.
Even if you're not hungry. You mentioned these are linked to obesity.
They often are, yes. They're very common behavioral patterns. And mindful eating directly gives you skills to manage those impulses.
So it's like you're putting yourself back in the driver's seat.
That's a great way to put it. You're in charge of your response, rather than just being driven by instinct or habit. It gives you that conscious choice back.
Okay, this all sounds really positive. But how do you actually do it? Like practically? It sounds maybe a bit abstract.
It can seem that way, but the source material actually breaks it down into pretty simple steps. Things you can start doing right away.
Okay, give us the list. What can people try?
All right, so first, eat more slowly. Obvious, maybe, but crucial. Don't rush meals.
Right.
Chew thoroughly, like really chew. Maybe even put your fork down between bites.
Good tip.
Eliminate distractions, turn off the TV, put the phone away, just for the meal.
Easier said than done sometimes.
No, but try it. Maybe even eat in silence for a few minutes. Focus on how the food makes you feel. Are you enjoying it? Is it satisfying? Stop eating when you're full. Not stuffed, just comfortably full. Listen for that signal.
That requires paying attention.
It does. And ask yourself why you're eating. Are you actually hungry? Or is it something else? Is the food nutritious? Does it serve your body well? Little things, too, like putting food on a plate instead of eating out of the bag or container.
Yeah. That makes it feel more like a meal.
Exactly. And try to eat in a designated place like the kitchen table or maybe the break room at work, not slumped on the sofa in front of the TV or at your desk.
Makes sense. Create some separation.
Precisely. Now, the advice is usually to start small. Don't try to do all this for every single meal right away, but you pick one meal a day.
Like breakfast or lunch.
Yeah, whichever feels easiest. Just focus on these points for that one meal. And as you practice, it starts to feel more natural. Mindfulness is a skill, it gets easier, then you can gradually try it with more meals.
That feels achievable, not overwhelming. And I love this little quirk from the source material. Apparently, some foods actually make it easier to practice mindful eating.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because they sort of force you to pay attention.
Like what?
Well, think about pomegranates. You can't just wolf those down. You have to cut them, score them, pick out the little seeds.
True, that takes focus.
Or edamame in the pods. You have to slide the beans out. or cherries dealing with the pits, even peanuts or pistachios still in their shells.
Right. They naturally slow you down. You have to engage with them more, unlike, say, grabbing a handful of chips.
Exactly. It builds in that pause, that interaction.
So, wrapping things up for this deep dive, it really seems like mindful eating isn't just some fleeting trend. It's a genuinely powerful tool, isn't it, for managing how we eat and maybe even improving our whole relationship with food.
Absolutely. I mean, the key takeaways we've touched on how it can support weight management by changing the behaviors behind eating, how it reduces that emotional eating or eating just because food is there, and just generally boosting your awareness of your body's signals and, yeah, your whole connection to what you eat. It's pretty profound.
We really hope you, listening, might consider how some of these ideas could fit into your own life, even starting small, like we said, with just one meal.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Something that struck me is, if we zoom out from food for a second, how much of the rest of our lives do we kind of conduct on autopilot?
Good question.
And, what other areas could benefit from just a little bit more of that conscious attention, that presence that we've been talking about with eating? It's fascinating to consider.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration today. We hope it gives you some food for thought, literally, and maybe inspires you to bring a bit more mindfulness to your next meal.